Good to have the throne. Hey there guys, welcome back to my channel. Just recently I was hit up by one of my viewers to review another channel and a video that they made that
they would like me to take on, so I'm going to do that. This request comes from Ryan Barth.
And he wants me to review
JJ Plagiarisms.
I can already tell this is going to end well. Now I did already swing over to his channel and have a look, and surprisingly a lot of his content is relatively short, which is kind of a blessing for me because it's a real grind to have to sit through a 30-minute toxic spew fest of just listening to someone's sewage come dribbling out of their mouth, and it leaves me a tad exhausted. So the fact that a lot of his videos are only a couple minutes long, that's really great. And in fact the video that Ryan wanted me to tackle, I think is like 8 to 9 minutes, so that's great. Here it is. Sequel fans are not true Star Wars fans.
Sequel fans are not true Star Wars fans. Sequel fans are not true Star Wars fans.
BlurryFilms made a video about another YouTuber called JJ Plagiarisms, and they were talking about Star Wars. But when he made the video, he made a lot of false claims and misinformation about Star Wars, so I'm refuting that. Let's get into it. I can already feel the fucking hate swaying in from the sequel fandom. Sequel fans tend to be prequel haters. I'm done with that shit myself. The new trilogy is fucking disrespectful and insulting. Telling you the values and legacy doesn't mean anything. How could you, after seeing that, not at least ask questions about what they did and how they handled these characters, this world?
I can already tell this is going to be good.
Oh boy, I can see the dislikes in the comments already, and it might be the most controversial thing I've ever said directly, but it's true. I was contemplating making this video, but I'm done being lenient towards sequel fans who to this day still don't properly understand why the movie is actually hated. They widely don't consider nuances at all and make incorrect statements about the opposition who hate the movie. The most egregious is that all the haters are just racist misogynists who hate women and don't support equality, blah 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 blah. Obviously that's the most blatant example, but people still don't understand the opposition on things like Luke Skywalker. So with that being said, I'm going to make a video pissing on sequel fans, but I don't care. They either don't understand the hate or contribute to the hate. I'm not going to make any friends after this video, but it has to be made. The sequel trilogy disrespected the original 6 movies. George Lucas hates The Last Jedi and probably the other 2 sequels to an extent.
It's hypocritical for you to talk about how other people in the fandom are being when you trash George Lucas yourself, so I wouldn't talk.
Uh-oh, retard alert! Retard alert, class!
Sequel fans are usually prequel haters. The same people dick riding and defending Rian Johnson when he was already busy sucking on his own dick. When asked if there's anything wrong with your film, he said no. How can you make a movie in a franchise and you suck on your own dick so hard? In a franchise you didn't even create yourself. Then someone asks if there's even a flaw in it, and your response is no, as if you're suddenly perfect or flawless. That's Rian Johnson's reaction to someone asking if his film had a flaw. The new trilogy fans are dick riding and defending his film.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
The new trilogy disrespected Star Wars and its values. The original 6 complimented them and nurtured it.
Right away he makes a claim, and where is your proof? Like, you can't just say things like that and just expect me to just be in immediate agreement with you. You need to provide proof with statements like that, otherwise you're just talking out of your ass.
It's not just a fucking claim, there is proof, dumbass. Bob Iger spoke out about George's stance on The Force Awakens. That's proof enough.
Right away he makes a claim, and where is your proof? Like, you can't just say things like that and just expect me to just be in immediate agreement with you. You need to provide proof with statements like that, otherwise you're just talking out of your ass.
It's not out of someone's ass, there's actual proof. So if there's evidence that's public domain online, I highly doubt that's just someone's rumor. It's online, it's public domain, that's actual evidence and proof.
Okay, right away he makes a claim, and where is your proof? Like, you can't just say things like that and just expect me to just be in immediate agreement with you. You need to provide proof with statements like that, otherwise you're just talking out of your ass.
You need to provide proof with statements like that, otherwise you're just talking out of your ass. Otherwise you're just talking out of your ass. Otherwise you're just talking out of your ass.
What did you like? Oh my God. This is why you're stupid.
Again, there is proof, it's public domain. Again, there is proof, it's public domain. So again, that's inaccurate. If there's proof online and it's public domain, that's proof. It fucking invalidated the previous 6 films by changing whole characters without any development or build-up. They just break character, break the lore, break the rules and regulations surrounding the lore, not taking the world's logic into account. That invalidates what came before. Because then you start asking questions as to why didn't people hyperspace kamikaze into soldiers all along during the original trilogy if they could just do that the entire time. I'm referring to here to the hold on maneuver. This breaks the lore so hard and invalidates entire battles that went on in the original trilogy.
Congratulations, you're stupid in 3 languages.
If you make something or a character go against their own fucking development, don't build this shit up, and all of a sudden for the sake of shock value you have him not only try and kill an innocent person, what the fuck, out of fear, but his own nephew. So fucking stupid. When previously he was so against those kinds of things, he even spared his own father. Why would he then panic? And in a fucking panic, he all of a sudden disregards his entire character, disregarding episode 6 and the development of this character in episodes 4, an attempt to kill Kylo in his sleep, or contemplates it. It doesn't match his character and invalidates his great decision that made episode 6 so meaningful. This invalidates that because if you spare your father prior, but now all of a sudden you want to kill your own nephew, that goes against your character completely. And they did that too, among other things. They are very fucking disrespectful towards the franchise and its world, not showing the same level of care for its characters like something that of Cobra Kai, which gave old and new characters necessary character development, and actually paid respect to the fucking source material. You do not see this level of care in the Star Wars universe today. Instead, they insult it, get mad that people didn't like it, then tell the fan base you're the problem and you need to let it all go and stop being attached. I'm referring to The Last Jedi in that regard. Then hypocritically copy and duplicate aspects and even plot points and even entire fucking designs straight from the original trilogy while hypocritically telling fans to let it go. Get the fuck out of here. In The Last Jedi, that's beyond disrespectful to the franchise, to the brand, and to its fandom. He didn't even do anything fucking original either and took aspects from the original trilogy, but you want to get mad at fans for not liking it, then turn around and say fans are the problem and you don't think that's disrespectful? Not to mention the disrespect shown to the Star Wars universe in The Last Jedi. You know, burning down ancient Jedi text instead of Luke just talking to the poor kid. He contemplates and almost attempts to kill him. Then they tell you to let it all die and kill it if you have to. You don't think that's a tad bit disrespectful?
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Because, I can just say, oh, Lucas loved the sequel trilogy. I'm not going to back anything up with that because you're already in agreement with me, right? See, it's absurd. So if you don't back up anything that you say with physical evidence, like quotes or videos, like I have in my previous videos talking about these kind of things, you come across as quite dishonest.
Not only did they do that, but it invalidated everything that happened in the original 6 movies. The case I'm making is that the sequels are not authentic and they are disrespectful. It's a given that a truly authentic work in a franchise has to be done by the original creator.
Don't bring up Marvel. Marvel has multiple continuities. That's not the same. One can't invalidate the other because it's in its own separate continuity, so it doesn't matter. Star Wars has one storyline, has one continuity, so each story is connected, and if you change one or tamper with one, it can invalidate the other because they're all connected chronologically.
This might be hard to believe, but are you aware that nobody gives a shit?
says who? Like, never mind the multiple different IPs from Marvel to Star Trek and Star Wars and DC as well that have worked on making other stories that were not made by their original creators and are still considered legit.
What is wrong with the original creator creating authentic work? How is that something to laugh at as if it's a foolish statement? Dude, the original creator is the one who made the product. So how is it suddenly foolish or stupid to then have the original creator know the specific creative vision behind their own work? If you disregard that or the creator, it won't match their authenticity. What the fuck is wrong with that? They made it. Wouldn't it make sense that they would know something about it? No one else could because they're the ones that created it, so only they would know. If it's in its own separate continuity, it doesn't fucking matter. But if it's in the same chronological order, let's say you create a story, then someone else takes the helm for your story sequel, then guess the fuck what? The story, even though someone else created the sequel, is canon to your entire storyline. Everything that happens in it stays in it forever, and it will always be a part of your story. Even though you just made the first one, you had nothing to do with the sequel. This is the difference between something that is in its own separate continuity or something that's an ongoing story, and the story is all connected in one timeline. There's a difference.
Are you dumb?
Like, he says it's a given. Well, apparently no one told these other franchises like Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Star Trek, all the other ones, or especially with Star Wars with what's now considered legends, with all those books that were created. I highly doubt Lucas approved of all of them.
George Lucas approved of many expanded universe projects, so when people throw that around, that gets old fast. Yet another person speaking on the expanded universe without doing their research.
Go fuck yourselves.
Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself! Go fuck yourself! Go fuck yourself!
Okay, so how could you claim to be the authority when you barely know about the lore of Star Wars itself? Things like Darth Revan, do you even know anything about their lore or history? So if you don't know, how could you claim to be the authority? A lot of sequel fans accuse people of not understanding Star Wars when they don't even know about the expanded universe or overall Star Wars lore. Honestly, it should just be called Star Wars. I'll call it the Star Wars lore. They don't even know about the overall Star Wars lore, and yet they want to school Star Wars fans on it.
Like, these could just be your opinion. That's fine, but don't act like it's objective law, because we're...
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Dealing with art which is subjective by nature. Dealing with art which is subjective by nature.
Objective by nature.
Bullshit. You can't just go into, oh, it's all subjective. This is just true because the creator is the one who created it. Are you saying you would know the specific vision of Walt Disney? No. Only he would know, dumbass. Or Amy Hennig, the writer of Uncharted 1 through 3? Are you saying you would know her specific creative vision? No. Only she would know because she created it. So using subjectivity to brush past this point doesn't prove anything. You didn't prove your point by doing that. That only highlights the fact that authenticity comes from the person who actually made it, and it can't be replicated because anyone else would not be them. Therefore, authenticity is important and has a huge effect on what someone is creating.
Than the sequel era. So I don't see how this is going to play well for you in your logic there at all. Like, that's some absurd elitist gatekeeping shit.
And only the original creator, given he is the one who created it. Anything else without the original creator's approval is just fan fiction. This doesn't make every fan fiction bad, but it highlights the original creator's meaning is the correct one.
And whatever could have possibly given you the notion that you were the authority on what qualifies as fan fiction. That's some rather pretentious and absurd shit to be saying for someone who's not actively working for these companies. Like, these could just be your opinion. That's fine, but don't act like it's objective law because we're dealing with art which is subjective by nature in every possible factor. You may not like it and you're free to not support it, but the only ones who have the authority to decide what is legit and what is fan fiction are the companies creating them.
What a cliche and sellout thing to say. It's all about the company. Hop off Disney's dick and get that fucking jizz stain off your mouth. Not the creation or creator. Get the fuck out of here. That the company is The company is not going to care about anything outside the bottom line. It's not going to understand a creator's work and creative vision. So that point is a fallacy. And even if they think about those things, their main goal is the bottom line. They don't care. They're not thinking about someone's creative work. They're not thinking about someone's creative vision. They're thinking about the bottom line. So to even go there is so shilly. Like, you shill for corporate entities. Get the fuck out of here with that.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
You have no power here.
You see, a lot of The Last Jedi, for example, defenders assume that what I say about Star Wars is just my interpretation.
It's not just an interpretation, it's the original creator's intentions. Something they don't think matters, but Disney, a company that could care less about whether that matters or not, you defend that so cliche and so shilly.
Which is wrong. If I'm gonna say something like Rian Johnson ruined Star Wars, or Rian Johnson doesn't understand Star Wars, then the basis of that is based from George Lucas himself. Let's use an example. Balance in the Force. Rian Johnson thought balance in the Force meant equal Jedi and equal Sith. What it actually means is elimination of the dark side because it is unnatural and destructive to life.
Rian didn't. He failed that balance in the Force, in the story, and especially Luke, so he did not understand.
Aside from him not providing proof if Rian actually said anything like that,
There is proof, you fucking dumbass, on the internet. It went viral. Rian Johnson's stance on movies, so again, where the fuck are you getting this from? He cared more about dividing people than upholding the legacy.
Congratulations, you're stupid in 3 languages.
prophecy, because he, technically speaking, got the amount of Jedi and Sith down to equal numbers.
Of Jedi and Sith down to equal numbers. Down to equal numbers.
At the end of the prequels. If there was a misunderstanding, that's due to Lucas's confusing prophecy he poorly explained.
Uh-oh, retard alert! Retard alert, class!
Hey, dumbass. Anakin did not bring things down to equal numbers. Again, you are uninformed, you fucking idiot. You're speaking on Star Wars telling people they don't even understand it themselves when you yourself barely know about Revan or about the overall lore. What people call the expanded universe, I call lore. You barely know about it, but you want to school people on it. Anakin did not bring things down to equal numbers. Here is the Force. The light side is balance, the dark side is imbalance. It can't be yin and yang because the dark side corrupts yin and yang itself. And the light side is yin and yang itself, so you didn't even research the very thing you want to claim to school people on. Anakin fulfilled the prophecy at the end of episode 6. No, that's not George's fault for you and Rian misinterpreting the prophecy, you idiot. It was so simple in the first 6 films you could see it. Don't blame George for what your dumbass didn't see or know. If you yourself don't know or can't see it, you can't blame George Lucas for what you and that hack Rian didn't even realize or notice about the film or prophecy. It's as simple as this. Anakin is the chosen one who will bring balance to the Force. His son threw the lightsaber and almost died. Vader comes in and brings Palpatine down. Even though he fell from grace, he's still the chosen one. That simple. If you couldn't understand that, that is your fault, not Lucas's. He made it clear as day, and you still misinterpreted it as Sith and Jedi in equal numbers. When there were barely any Jedi, the Jedi were in hiding. How is systematically wiping out the Jedi equal numbers? Unfair, not true.
Even still, I don't see where the point of The Last Jedi has anything to do in discussing the interpretation of this concept.
It does, because The Last Jedi is trying to tackle that concept. It's one of the main concepts in the movie, so yes, it has everything to do with discussing the interpretation of that concept. The Last Jedi movie attempts to tackle the very concept you brought up. That matches what The Last Jedi was trying to tackle. So because The Last Jedi tries to tackle this concept, it has everything to do with it.
This is from George Lucas himself. This is not debatable.
Everything's debatable, especially when at a time of the creation of the sequels, Lucas had long sold the rights away to Star Wars, so his opinion on what that means is about as relevant as mine, yours, or anyone else's. If he also failed to apply this logic into the movies, which he did, then this isn't an issue of right and wrong for those making the sequels. This is just the new interpretation being built on where it was left hanging. If Lucas doesn't like that, he shouldn't have sold the franchise before inputting that logic somewhere in the movies. If Lucas doesn't like that, he shouldn't have sold the franchise before inputting that logic somewhere in the movies.
Rian Johnson was dead wrong, which means he contradicted the law set up by the original creator.
Wrong being a subjective opinion in this context, but, you know, whatever.
No, it's from the original creator, it's common sense, it's true, it's finite. You can't debate a creation with the creator of it. How are you going to replicate what they do? Only they made it, so only they could know. Other people could come in and add some interesting ideas and things, however they aren't the same person, dumbass, so they can never fully match the original creator's authenticity. Meaning that authentic feel from that person is important. So no, it's common sense. You can't debate a creation with the creator of it. They're the ones that made it. Only they would know.
If he also failed to apply this logic into the movies, which he did, then this isn't an issue of right and wrong for those making the sequels. This is just the new interpretation being built on where it was left hanging. If Lucas doesn't like that, he shouldn't have sold the franchise before inputting that logic somewhere in the movies.
It wasn't left hanging. They made some grave, and I do mean grave, mistakes in that area. Rian was completely wrong. He tried to tackle and deeply assess a franchise he didn't even do his research on. And that's why he was wrong. And he was even being disrespectful to the Force and Jedi. Trying to critique the Jedi of the prequels, making Luke a hypocrite when he barely researched the prequels. He did the bare minimum and summed up an entire trilogy in one brief statement. That was bias and showed a lack of research or respect.
If Lucas doesn't like that, he shouldn't have sold the franchise before inputting that logic somewhere in the movies.
Rian Johnson was dead wrong, which means he contradicted the law set up by the original creator.
Wrong being a subjective opinion in this context, but, you know, whatever.
No, it's not subjective, you dumbass. That's how I know, unlike Chris Avallone with Culture 2, you didn't do your damn Star Wars research. In The Last Jedi, they told you to throw it out, let it die. How is that upholding the values, you idiot? In Attack of the Clones, they said if the Jedi would know the difference between knowledge and wisdom. That is upholding the values of Star Wars right there. There is a clear difference of how one treated the franchise and how the other treated it. One showed respect and upholded the legacy of what Star Wars is. That's Attack of the Clones. The very movie sequel fans trashed the most, but guess what? It didn't disrespect the legacy and upholded the legacy of what Star Wars is. The other told you to let the past die, kill it if you have to. How is that respecting the legacy? How is that upholding the values? And people get on Attack of the Clones when they actually had moments of thought-provoking dialogue that expanded upon what Star Wars is.
If he also failed to apply this logic into the movies, which he did, then this isn't an issue of right and wrong for those making the sequels. This is just the new interpretation being built on where it was left hanging.
If he also failed to apply this logic into the movies, which he did, then this isn't an issue of right and wrong for those making the sequels. If he also failed to apply this logic into the movies, which he did.
Go fuck yourself!
He did apply it, you fucking dumbass. He applied the legacy and values, you fucking idiot. He thought about the creative feel of Star Wars based on what was laid down in the original trilogy. Holy fuck, you are so out of touch. He just did something new with it, unlike the new trilogy, which just wanted to duplicate its feel and success, capitalize on it. That's all they cared about. He actually cared about making a new original story, but in that feel and style, with a new plot and world. So that's not true. In the new trilogy, they don't care about that. They do what they want to do with it, regardless of whether it invalidates what came before, regardless of whether it disrespects the legacy or contradicts the story or characters or lore. They don't care, they'll do it anyway, as long as they can capitalize on the original trilogy's success. That's all they give a fuck about. That's all they care about. There's a complete separation to how Disney treated Star Wars to how George Lucas treated it.
Let me ask you this. Sequel fans, after learning that Rian Johnson was without a shadow of a doubt wrong in his interpretation, or his shitty guess in what balance in the Force meant, why would you still defend the product?
Because they're fun. Like the original trilogy.
Not once have I come across a sequel fan who came across like he or she wasn't biased in some way.
Everyone is biased. Even you, whether you admit it or not. So it's sort of an irrelevant point to make. If someone likes something, you calling them biased about it doesn't really mean anything.
Enjoying it is one thing, but saying that it's a true Star Wars movie is disrespectful. You cannot be both a sequel fan and a Star Wars fan.
False. Do you like the sequels? Do you like Star Wars? Do you think they're one and the same thing? Anyone else who's watching? If you answered yes, yes you are. Both a sequel fan and a Star Wars fan. Or you would just probably, like myself, would just call myself a Star Wars fan. Because the sequels are a part of Star Wars. They are Star Wars. Whether this guy likes to acknowledge it or not. Sorry. And when the movies uphold the other teachings Star Wars has stood for in the past, it's hardly disrespectful. Just because the select few things you point out as wrong doesn't match up with the original trilogy's creator's intentions that he never applied in the movies that he had control of at the time of owning the product, owning the franchise. Because Star Wars is more than just the interpretation of the balance of the Force. It's also about standing up and uniting against tyranny, recognizing what leads to tyranny, diving into the concepts of good and evil, and the nuances of what makes a person do bad things, and can a person be redeemed even after doing so much horrible shit. It's so much more than these select few things you hyper focus on just to have any kind of mud to sling.
Also, you stated something about balance in the Force not being important. You fucking ignorant, stupidity-filled dumbass. Dude, are you serious right now? The bulk of the Force, what the Force is, how the Force itself works. You don't think that's important to the Star Wars universe? The balance of the Force is the bulk of Star Wars. So you can't brush that importance to the side. Are you fucking stupid? Are you fucking crazy? That's way important. Too important to brush to the side. You really need to pay attention to think about what you're really stating here. This is Star Wars. That is the Force. The balance of the Force is, yeah, kind of gonna be a big freaking deal. Not something you can just brush to the side.
It's so much more than these select few things you hyper focus on just to have any kind of mud to sling.
Well, it's also so much more than what you're choosing to focus on. Balance in the Force, Force connection, lore, thought-provoking dialogue, inspiration from Akira Kurosawa, and many others. So it's more than the small things you're choosing to focus on yourself.
Why don't you talk about all those other failures? Unless you can't, because the films do a good job of upholding those values.
No, they did not uphold those values, you fucking idiot. No, they haven't. The films disrespected everything and told you, the viewer, to let it all die. Kill it if you have to. And this is a core theme of the movie. They didn't explain what happened after episode 6, or fill in the context. They didn't stay true to the world or lore, and disrespected it completely, telling you it doesn't matter. How is that upholding the values?
Because the sequels disrespect Star Wars in many ways. Balance in the Force, Luke Skywalker, hyperspace, etc.
Okay, talk about those things. Why do you just assume I know what you're talking about?
Oh, trust me, people are listening.
The Last Jedi, for example, on top of that, is filled with political nonsense that does not belong.
First off, the animal abuse and awful heavy-handed political and social messages were hand-fisted without a subtle bone in its body. Now, I'm okay with adding messages and representation, just don't force these themes in the most cliche and hand-fisted way. That was a huge issue with The Last Jedi. It was so corny and hand-fisted, no care or attention to detail with these messages. And that might be why people get annoyed, because not only is it forced and poorly executed, but it's played up like it's some kind of deep critique. But it's played up like it's some kind of deep critique, making it come across as pretentious.
The Lord of Hunger would be outclassed by Rian Johnson, going by the direct definition. The Last Jedi is terrible a lot because it doesn't adhere to the correct meaning of Star Wars. The Last Jedi was Rian Johnson's incorrect interpretation on what Star Wars meant. He didn't bother to research George Lucas or the true meaning behind the story. Thus, he made a widely hated film. Again, this is not my interpretation. It is the correct meaning according to George Lucas himself and how he explains his work.
This is why balancing the Force, something you brush past its importance, because if both are one and the same, it changes the very foundation of how the Force works and the context of the movies. Don't change something if you don't understand it yourself. And they clearly didn't do their research and went and changed it anyway, giving way for potential issues like things in the Star Wars universe being fucking nihilistic. Well, there's no side, so fuck it all. Let the past die, kill it if you have to. See? And you said, I don't see how The Last Jedi has anything to do in discussing the interpretation of this concept. Looks like it had everything to do in discussing the interpretation of this concept.
Many sequel fans hate the prequels too. Most of them love how Rian Johnson disregarded the past. Hence the line, let the past die.
And if you were at all paying attention to the movie and not sitting around with your head up your butt, you would know that The Last Jedi literally contradicts that line later in the film, when Kylo is spouting similar things to Luke, who responds with,
I will kill the last Jedi!
Every word of what you just said is wrong.
rather fitting in this context, really. The movie, in part, is literally about proving Kylo wrong. And the fact this guy hyper-focuses on that and doesn't acknowledge the rest of the movie firmly stands against that ideology proves he either did not pay attention enough to have his views on the films even be considered credible, or he has no interest in the truth.
Kylo Ren is the villain of the movie, and BlurryFilms claims that Kylo Ren is contradicted in the film. The themes that The Last Jedi goes for are the same themes that people like Kylo and Yoda stated. But BlurryFilms says because the movie says, oh, Kylo's wrong, then the theme is wrong. Motherfucker, you're wrong, you fucking dumbass. Because the movie has the theme of letting the past die and goes through with this theme anyway, regardless of who Kylo is, regardless of the fact that Kylo's the villain and stuff like that. The movie goes through with the themes anyway by burning down the Jedi text, thus killing the past. So thus you're wrong, so thus shut the fuck up. The movie goes through with these themes the entire fucking movie. What the fuck are you talking about? What is the theme? Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. What happens in the movie? Yoda shows up, burns down the Jedi text, and says the greatest teacher failure is, thus confirming that the theme is right. And Luke was the one who was going to burn it down. If Luke Skywalker himself was going to burn down the Jedi text and Yoda finishes the job, what the fuck do you think that means, you idiot? That means that the movie is going through with those themes. So for you to say that, what you're really saying is that the movie is inconsistent with its own themes. That's what you're basically saying. Get the fuck out of here with that. So tired of hearing that. So many of you sequel fans do this.
The sequels disrespect the original 6 movies because it doesn't present morality the way George Lucas did. The Last Jedi, again, is actually pretty nihilistic on how it portrays morality. The film literally has zero morality. There's no good or evil, just nihilism.
Snoke and the First Order and Palpatine are evil, Rey and the Resistance are good. That is clear as day to see. Or did I miss something when the First Order was gunning down women and children and that they're secretly the good guys? Or is it that Kylo is a villain that later becomes good? Because that's literally no different than what happens with Vader.
The Lord of Hunger would be outclassed by Rian Johnson, going by the direct definition. The Last Jedi is terrible a lot because it doesn't adhere to the correct meaning of Star Wars. The Last Jedi was Rian Johnson's incorrect interpretation on what Star Wars meant. He didn't bother to research George Lucas or the true meaning behind the story. Thus, he made a widely hated film. Again, this is not my interpretation. It is the correct meaning according to George Lucas himself and how he explains his work. I also don't think that sequel fans understand that sequel hate goes beyond the films themselves.
Which is funny that you mention it because Lucas's own work literally states Those who deal in absolutes are evil. Just as you do trying to use Lucas as your absolute to hammer your weak points home. Furthermore, Lucas's work literally warns against those who obsess over their anger and hatred over something. Just as you are doing. Once again, you ironically seem to be making the case for the teachings of Star Wars as being the exact kind of person Star Wars, the sequels included, protested against people being to one another.
Absolutes, only a Sith deals in absolute. It's not an absolute, it's information about the Force presented by the one who created it. That's facts, not absolutes. There's a difference, you fucking idiot. But you're doing the same thing yourself.
Let me put it like this. I wouldn't respect the films even if I liked them. George Lucas was backstabbed by Bob Iger, as admitted in the traitor's self-biography. This is coming from the head of Disney in his own words. This is not some fake news spread around by Mike Zero. It is a confirmed, undeniable, irrefutable fact.
Okay, so I know I'm backtracking a little here because I feel like what he said earlier perfectly flows into what he says next about Bob Iger's betrayal of Lucas. Because he says, I wouldn't respect the films even if I liked them. Yeah, that's called not having integrity. If you like something but don't respect it, what does that say about you? You can like and respect something, but when you like something but don't respect it, transfer that over to a person. If you like someone but you don't respect them, why are you hanging out with them? Why do you even like them if you don't respect them? This perfectly translates over to his next point because he goes into how Bob Iger cheated and stole Star Wars from Lucas as he tries to make this point. And let's talk about Lucas's history and relationship with Mr. Iger and Disney, because we can moan and whine all we want about the dealings that went into Lucas selling Star Wars, but afterwards, the guy called them white slavers and then proceeded to continue working with them, not once, not twice, but on 3 separate occasions. And that's what's called not having integrity either. I know, crazy as it sounds, but believe it or not, I can acknowledge Lucas's contributions to Star Wars and acknowledge him as the rightful original founder. I can acknowledge his ideologies he's put into Star Wars that I 100% agree with, but I can also criticize him when he says or does something stupid because I'm not shackled to the guy by holding him up as an authority figure the way this guy does while he's jerking him off. If you call someone a white slaver and continue to work with them, you either don't believe in what you say or someone being a slaver isn't a deal breaker for you. And I'm 100% allowed to criticize that absurdity without having my fandom card revoked by this gatekeeper spouting nonsense.
I tried flat out asking sequel fans in their comments section on YouTube as to why they support Disney given these events. None of them properly answer the question or express hatred towards George Lucas.
Well, that would determine what you qualify as properly. Given this guy's lunacy, I can only imagine the restrictions he might place on the answers I'm allowed to give. But here's my answer. When you spend $4 billion to acquire an IP, you can do with it whatever the hell you want, regardless of what verbal promises you might have given that were not included in the actual contract itself. Is that considered lacking tact? Sure. Does that mean whatever they make is good? No, not necessarily, but once you own the rights to something, it's yours. That's sort of the point. And while JJ here tries to pretend it has some malicious dealing with Bob Iger, he even reflects in the book he should have handled it differently. Maybe my mindset can be seen as a little cold, but I guess as someone who can't possibly fathom the idea of getting $4 billion for anything, I find myself hard to sympathize with a guy who got more money in a day than most of us will get a fraction of in our lifetime.
Oh, it's true, alright. Bob Iger admitted it himself. It's actually true, you fucking dumbass. And Caitlin threw out his script, and Bob didn't stop him. He claimed people wanted something quintessentially Star Wars, so that was what he was gonna make. So that was gonna be what he wanted to make. Not to respect his vision, but to capitalize on the original trilogy's success, and was afraid of the prequel backlash. That's all they cared about. Bob Iger lied and claimed he would uphold his vision, which he couldn't care less about. He didn't want another prequel scenario. That's all he cared about. So he lied just to get it, then did what he really wanted to do afterwards. He admitted it in his book, so it's actually true. So when you say it's conspiracy or it's this and that, like your dumbass would predictably say, it is now public domain. Many people have made assessments on this story. It is now public knowledge. That is the second or third time that you've claimed something that people can research in the public is, oh, that's conspiracy, when it's public domain.
Like trying to dismiss that George Lucas doesn't have a say anymore when he's actually the most important voice on how Star Wars is doing.
Now, while he casually tries to dismiss the fact Lucas sold the rights to Star Wars away to Disney, whether he likes it or not, that is in fact sort of the end of the man's opinion holding any further relevance. If he wanted to remain in a place where he could continue to have his voice heard and his wishes followed, he shouldn't have sold it. His opinion, regardless of his contribution prior, now carry as much weight as you or I. You may wish that were not the case, but you can blame the fandom that chased Lucas into the arms of Disney to begin with. And despite you providing no proof that sequel fans hold any disdain for the prequels, there is, however, plenty of proof that the ones who chased Lucas away were those like JJ Plagiarisms and the Fandom Menace, who both share the same animosity towards sequel fans for the crime of enjoying movies.
They could have at least used it for ideas. The expanded universe upholded the Star Wars legacy and world even before Episode 5 came out. So I think that means it's pretty important.
Ignorance or malicious hatred?
No, it's just Disney made better Star Wars movies than Lucas's last three.
Disney made better Star Wars movies than Lucas's last three. Disney made better Star Wars movies than Lucas's last three.
Your stupid ass just got on the prequels earlier. Sequel fans and OT purists trashed them. You just claimed that Disney did a better job as well upholding the values, a bold claim. So that's proof right there that you're doing that same thing yourself. Plus, sequel fans all over the Star Wars community do this all the time. There's evidence all over the internet, including you doing it.
Congratulations, you're stupid in 3 languages.
The community loves the prequels. Just check Twitter. Type prequels in Twitter, you will see the diehards. They don't fuck around. Saying Attack of the Clones is the best. No, Revenge of the Sith. Some saying A Phantom Menace, saying the acting was brilliant. The characters were genius. It was like I was home. It was the shit. You need to see this. Prequel fandom is a huge part of the Star Wars community nowadays, despite the hate it got for years. And now look, it's unreal, and many YouTubers are admitting this as prequel resurgency. You're the motherfuckers who don't like it and make it publicly known at all times, always getting on the films, always trashing it. So you can't accuse others of what you've done yourself in the Star Wars community. You can't say, oh, look at you hating on this and that, when your stupid ass hated on the prequels yourself throughout the video. Many people hate on those films just like your dumbass did earlier. So how are you going to turn around and bring up hate when you brought up hate for the prequels? That's kind of hypocritical, I'm just saying. You hate on the films, you just got on George Lucas. So really, if anyone chased him away, it's probably the people who trashed his films. If the people you're talking to didn't trash his films, then what the fuck are you talking about? The people in the community you're responding to here in this video are not trashing the prequels. You just did, and you're accusing people of hate. That's so backwards.
Are you dumb?
He's not allowed to speak though.
False! He 100% has the right to speak. His voice just carries no more weight than the rest of us known as the fandom, which can be seen as saddening to some, but it is a situation caused by his own doing.
Which is saddening. Disney lied to him and acquired Star Wars, and because of arrogance, they made 3 shitty sequel movies, which all bombs from a critical level.
Between the 3 films, they collectively made $4 billion, and The Last Jedi had year-long Blu-ray sales. Maybe not try and slide your opinion in for the facts, bud.
If only they had listened to George Lucas. How could you possibly be a fan of the sequels after learning all this?
I wonder what could have caused Disney to discount Lucas's ideas. It couldn't possibly be that before the sequels came out, there was still animosity towards the prequels and Lucas's competence as a director and a storyteller that was stained across the internet by angry little fellows like this. Oh wait, that's more than likely exactly what it was.
No, part of that is what your dumbass just stated earlier. People who chased him away.
And The Last Jedi had year-long Blu-ray sales. Maybe not try and slide your opinion in for the facts, bud.
If only they had listened to George Lucas. How could you possibly be a fan of the sequels after learning all this?
No, The Last Jedi box office was inferior hell to The Force Awakens. So you're wrong again. The Blu-ray sales saved it, which is sad because Star Wars never fell off like that. Before the fact that Blu-ray sales had to keep your movie alive, and when it was in theaters, the box office sales dropped hard. It's unreal, and it was sad to see.
There is, however, plenty of proof that the ones who chased Lucas away were those like JJ Plagiarisms and the Fandom Menace, who both share the same animosity towards sequel fans for the crime of enjoying movies.
Here we go. There's no proof sequel fans are prequel haters. Here it is, you're demonstrating it right now, you're proving it right now. Trashing Lucas and then claiming others are responsible for him selling it. Maybe it's the people trashing him that made him want to sell it.
He made better Star Wars movies than Lucas's last 3.
And you too, dumbass, you got on him earlier, so what are you talking about? You see, you just did it. Disney did better than Lucas. Meanwhile, he accuses the Fandom Menace of what he just did himself. You're being hypocritical, BlurryFilms.
Like them, because they're not obsessed about the behind-the-scenes nonsense regarding billionaires like you are. Sure, that might be considered ignorance, but ignorance of what? A man getting paid billions of dollars to sell a franchise? Oh, boo-hoo! Malicious intent? If I'm anything to go on, best you got is indifference. It's all fiction, bud. If someone makes Star Wars that's not Lucas and I enjoy it, I don't really care who's the one making it so long as it upholds the story's original virtues that I believe they have. And it's your opinion and nothing more to the contrary.
Tell me, after all that Disney has done to George Lucas and Star Wars, why do you stand by the middle finger to Star Wars itself?
Because between the two of us, I uphold Star Wars teachings that preach unity, understanding, hope, and optimism. And I'm wary of those trying to work me into a rage over something that at the end of the day is fiction. None of it is real. The only thing that holds weight in it for me is the messages it preaches. So long as I'm in agreement, I have little else to say in the matter.
They are not authentic Star Wars movies. Just because Disney have the rights does not mean what they make is authentic.
False. Because neither you nor I have any authority in what qualifies as authentic. You have your opinion on that matter, which is fine, but it is neither the authority nor the standard. They can be to you, but clearly neither Disney nor Lucasfilm recognizes you as an authority. And at the end of the day, their word counts for more than ours.
Authenticity is important. It's what separates a creative medium from all others. Disney disregarded this and told you to do the same. So when you disregard this, it doesn't have the same creative vision behind the original creator. Only they would know. That's why you have to be loyal to it, or it could lose its way. All of a sudden, it's no longer unique anymore. You're brushing past all that and just claiming, oh no, the Fandom Menace. False. It's authenticity that matters. Gotta be fucking loyal to the original creator's intentions. You fucking contradict what happens in that story, since the sequel or that story is connected to the original one. The original one could invalidate the other if you're not loyal. How would Disney know what the original creator knows? They're a business. A business is not going to know what the original creator knows. Only he could know.
And at the end of the day, their word counts for more than ours. Period.
Oh, fuck yourself!
But that's a business versus the creative mind. Doesn't your stupidity see no ends? Don't you see the fallacy in that? Wow. You're shilling for Disney. You're shilling for a corporate entity. Come on. And you're going against the creative vision over a greedy corporation. Dude, come on.
It doesn't necessarily make what they make good. It just means they are the ones who set the standards. So you don't have to like it. But that is just your opinion at the end of the day.
The intellect cannot be replicated. only imitate it, but the sequels did a poor job at that. As I've explained, to those who still support the sequels after learning these proven facts, you are in denial. The Force Awakens is a rehashed mess, The Last Jedi is the most pretentious movie ever, and The Rise of Skywalker is a backtracking, yet dangerously harmful mess to the franchise. If you want to tell me I'm spouting fake news like Mike Zero, you are denying irrefutable evidence. I have not come across a single Last Jedi fan who convinced me they truly cared or understood anything about Star Wars. Many sequel fans hate the prequels too. Most of them love how Rian Johnson disregarded the past. Hence the line, "Let the past die."
And if you were at all paying attention to the movie and not sitting around with your head up your butt, you would know that The Last Jedi literally contradicts that line later in the film, when Kylo is spouting similar things to Luke, who responds with,
"I will have killed the last Jedi."
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
rather fitting in this context, really. The movie, in part, is literally about proving Kylo wrong. And the fact this guy hyper-focuses on that and doesn't acknowledge that the rest of the movie firmly stands against that ideology proves he either did not pay attention enough to have his views on the films even be considered credible, or he has no interest in the truth.
No, it doesn't. It does not contradict that line. Instead, the movie actually goes through with this and the themes. You're gonna bring Kylo into this when that's a fallacy, because Kylo and Yoda spoke of the same themes throughout the movie. That "let the past die" is the theme they were going for, you fucking idiot. So stop it using that. So stop using that, because it's false. That's why they both said it. Failure is the greatest teacher. And they both basically said it. Let the past die, kill it if you have to. Then Yoda says, the greatest teacher failure is. Then Boosh burned down the entirety of the Jedi text. And when I saw the Jedi text burn down in theaters, I couldn't believe my fucking eyes. And then Kylo, let the past die, Sith and Jedi, all of it. Let it go, Rey. Let the past die, kill it if you have to. So what the fuck are you talking about? They go through with this by burning down the Jedi text itself. Again, I reiterate, just because Kylo is the villain of the movie doesn't mean that the theme that he's speaking about is not true or it's contradicted in the film. Wrong. That doesn't mean his theme is that doesn't mean the theme that he spoke of was contradicted. It was not. Because the movie goes through with the same theme that Kylo was talking about. The movie goes through with the same theme that Yoda was talking about. The movie goes through with the same theme that Luke Skywalker was talking about. And they do this by burning down the Jedi text and throughout the movie showing that that theme was actually correct. So you are incorrect, so shut the fuck up. The movie goes through with those themes, so don't bring Kylo into this like that proves anything. So stop it. No, it's not. It's not about the themes and concepts Rian was trying to tackle, quote unquote, through these characters. And he even tried to do this himself without thoroughly understanding what the franchise he was doing this for, which is why people thought Rian was wrong. Because he actually didn't research, so he actually didn't know what he was talking about.
This is the most blatant a case as I can make it. Sequel fans are not true Star Wars fans. They don't understand what Star Wars is, nor do they respect the creative process. Either that, or they are unaware of how it all works. I made this video because I'm sick of having to be lenient with sequel fans. The Last Jedi is a symbolic middle finger to Star Wars and George Lucas. Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams didn't care about continuity. Only their own visions, a vision that contradicted the George Lucas saga. The Last Jedi is not a true Star Wars film, not only because it had nothing to do with George Lucas, but because they changed, contradicted, or ignored his vision. This is not debatable. This is why I found it hard to respect Last Jedi fans, or take them seriously when they say they love Star Wars. Because they either misunderstand the franchise, or don't care about the many things the film gets dead wrong. I feel the only way to get it through to Last Jedi fans that their cult film sucks is by denouncing them for ignoring the creative process, and Disney's treatment of George Lucas. This image of an overweight Rian Johnson sums up better in words my feelings on the movie.
Coming from a guy who has repeatedly shown he learned nothing from what the original trilogy of Star Wars preached, this means very little. The original trilogy and what he deems as the real Star Wars would not condone this fixation on hate and hinge respect on the differences of opinions over fiction. His entire attitude about denouncing those who disagree with him once again ironically fall deftly on the very teachings that Lucas himself preached in the prequels with this my way or the highway attitude.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy. Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
If he truly cannot see his own behavior is outright condemned on what he claims to be protecting, his sense of entitlement clearly is blinding him from reality.
Wow, get ready guys, Star Wars fans. BlurryFilms is going to school Star Wars fans. Look out. And if you could truly research the franchise you're talking about, because you're talking about Star Wars without researching it, you don't even know the lore, you don't even have the facts, and yet you're speaking as if you know and trying to school others on it. So yeah, this is my response to BlurryFilms. This was Tarragon. I'm out this piece. Thank you for watching.